Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luz Chacon, and I'm happy to be here with you for the second part of this presentation where we're going to discuss how to live well and affordably. I'm also a consultant with the Iris Cantor UCLA Women's Health Education and Research Center, and I provide the portion of these workshops that covers nutrition and physical activity, which are also very important topics, especially right now with everything going on with COVID, the pandemic, and us needing to do as much as possible to stay healthy, because eating well and getting plenty of physical activity can really help support the immune system. Of course, it's important to do these things on an ongoing basis, but right now they're more important than ever, I would say. So what we're going to cover today is how to include fruits and vegetables in any budget, buying fresh produce at farmers markets, how to stretch your food budget, how to save money with coupons and other resources, as well as how you can exercise on a budget. So let's start by talking about what the benefits are of a healthy diet. Of course, we all know that nutrition, the food that we eat, gives us energy in the form of calories and lots of different vitamins. Well, it gives us macros and micros. Macronutrients would be protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and micronutrients are vitamins and minerals, which are all also very important. But I like to say that food is information to help our bodies run the way they're designed to run. So food and the nutrients that we receive from it supports every function within the body. And so it also helps us maintain a healthy weight. It improves our fitness. It improves our focus and concentration. Like I mentioned before, it can strengthen the immune system. So choosing to eat healthy foods is going to go a long way towards protecting us, in contrast to eating lots of sugary treats or junk food or fast food or things like that. Actually can deplete the immune system or weaken the immune system. And again, it provides the vitamins and minerals that our body needs to function well, and it can help prevent chronic diseases. And we know that right now with the pandemic, the people who are having the most severe cases of COVID and even the deaths are primarily among people who have an underlying chronic disease or obesity. So all of this, again, makes it important for us to prioritize what we're eating. I imagine that people are probably familiar with the MyPlate, which is the current version of the nutrition guidelines by the government. And so I just want to highlight a few things from MyPlate, because what they're recommending through this visual, this graphic, is that half of our plates should consist of fruits and vegetables. And how many of you actually eat that way? How many of us are prioritizing fruits and I would say vegetables over fruits? And you can see that the portion, the serving size there of vegetables is a bit larger than fruits. Unfortunately, we often eat more grains and proteins than fruits and vegetables, so it's important to try to shift into the other direction. And dairy, well, that's something that the depiction there implies that you should have a glass of milk or dairy with every meal. I don't know that that's necessarily the case, especially because a lot of people are lactose intolerant, and these days we have a lot of great options to cow's milk for people that maybe don't digest dairy very well. But the overall recommendations, I think, are very important, and I want to really emphasize drinking water as well, because we do need to drink half our weight in ounces a day. So what that means is, for a person who weighs 200 pounds, they ideally need to be drinking 100 ounces of water per day. Our bodies are about 70% water, and so we need to stay well hydrated for our bodies to function well also. And sometimes people maybe don't add enough fruits or vegetables to their diet because they feel like maybe they're too expensive. but there are ways to be able to get them without spending too much money. And one way is to buy fresh fruits that are in season, because when something is not in season locally, then it's shipped from far away, and so that adds to the cost of the item. So trying to buy local and in season is a really great way to go, not only in terms of saving money, but also because they taste better, because fruit or that's in season is going to well, as I said, taste better. And especially because it's not being shipped from far away. When it's being shipped from far away, then they have to pick it before it's reached its ripeness. And so that it makes it long enough, it lasts long enough to make it to its destination. And farmers markets are a great place to find fresh seasonal produce that is definitely local because it's from local farmers. And it's also a good idea to be conscious of what fruits and vegetables don't last as long, so that you're not buying too much of that, and maybe buying a bit more of things that have a longer shelf life, like let's say oranges or apples that don't go bad as quickly as, let's say, bananas. Bananas, we sometimes buy a bunch and maybe we eat a couple and then the others go bad before we have a chance to eat them, and we end up throwing them away, and that we're wasting money in that way. So trying to be very mindful of that is another way to save money and still get the nutrition that our body needs. Did I mention? I wanted to also mention that I think that might also be in another slide, but it's also a good idea to compare prices between fresh and frozen. But I think there's another slide where we'll talk about that. So you can, even with the pandemic right now, I believe that a lot of farmers markets are still open and available. And so the link that you see on this slide will give you a directory of farmers markets that are near you, so that you can shop there. And it's a good idea to take your own bags and arrive early, though there's the benefit to arriving early is that you have a greater selection, but there can sometimes be a benefit to arriving toward the end of farmers markets as well, because sometimes they will cut the price. They'll reduce the price toward the end of the day, so that they're not having to take so much of their produce back. And so sometimes you can get some pretty good deals if you show up at the end. So you kind of can weigh that out and decide what your priority is. And I like to recommend that people really eat a varied diet, that they really change up the different types of fruits and vegetables that they eat, so that you're getting a variety of different nutrients. If we have the tendency to eat the same thing over and over, we aren't getting the wide variety that our bodies need. And so sometimes there may be things there at the farmers market that you're not familiar with, but they usually are more than willing to give you samples so you can try different things and see how you like them and experiment a little bit. So a few other ways to stretch your budget is meal planning. I am a huge advocate of meal planning. I find that when I don't plan my meals and make a grocery list for the week, I end up just kind of selecting different things at the store, and sometimes I get home and I find like, oh, I already had a loaf of bread and now I bought another one. And so that's another great way to manage your budget, is having a detailed list of what you're going to make that week, what you're going to eat, and the groceries that you'll need for that, the different ingredients. And it's a good idea to also choose foods that tend to be more affordable and long lasting, again, that have a long shelf life. So beans, for example, dry beans have a very long shelf life and they're very affordable. Other examples are carrots, greens, potatoes, apples, and, well, bananas, I'm not so sure that, I mean, they're affordable. They don't necessarily have a long shelf life, but they are affordable on a regular basis. That's also what this is referring to. So It's also a good idea to make meals that stretch your budget, and we'll see some examples of that in the next slide. So, for example, soups, stews, casseroles are meals that where you add a lot of veggies, but you can really make the meat go further. So, for example, if you're going to make some chicken breasts, bake some chicken breasts, and you're feeding a family of 5 people, that's a chicken breast each. Whereas if you're making a stew or a soup, you might be able to just use 2 chicken breasts and lots of veggies. And so the more expensive food is you're going to stretch that further and therefore stretch your budget further. Another really important thing to do when you're grocery shopping is to not just look at the price of the item, but look at the unit price. So I'm not sure how many of you do that on a regular basis, but most items in the grocery store will break it down and show the unit price, which is the cost per ounce. So we have an example here on this slide of 2 different yogurt containers. And so the one on top, the cost is $1.62, and then we have another one that's 72 cents. So you might think, oh, well, I'm going to buy the one that's 72 cents because it's cheaper. But then when you compare the unit price, you can see that that one is 5 cents per ounce, and the other one is 12 cents per ounce. And so it costs a little bit more upfront, but you're actually getting a much lower, or you're buying it at a much lower cost per ounce, and that one is actually 32 ounces, so it's going to last much longer. So that's an important tip that I would recommend that people get into the habit of checking that whenever they're shopping, so that you choose the best deal. And usually generic products are also less expensive. So we've kind of been trained, because we're bombarded by marketing messages from major food companies, and they want brand loyalty. And so sometimes we have certain brands that we tend to like more, or feel like, oh, well, that's higher quality or what have you. But the truth is that generics are usually just as good, and they're usually less expensive. So you can save some food dollars that way as well. So here's what I wanted to share about choosing frozen items. Sometimes frozen, we often think that fresh is best when it comes to fruits and vegetables, but sometimes frozen is a better option for a couple of reasons, not just in that it's less expensive, but remember I was talking about how things that are not in season sometimes have to be shipped from far away, and sometimes they're not necessarily picked at the ripe when they're the most ripe. The other thing, when things are shipped from far away, is that we don't know how long it's been since they've been picked. And the longer fruits and vegetables, or the more days that have gone by from the time that they were harvested, they're losing nutrients day by day. And so frozen items, they're picked up when they're ripe, and then they're frozen, and so less of the nutrition might be lost in a frozen item, not to mention that they can be less expensive. So a good example of this for me is blueberries, or berries in general, but blueberries. So when you buy some fresh blueberries, usually it's a little container that doesn't go very far, and they tend to be pretty expensive. And yet, if you buy frozen blueberries, it's going to be much cheaper, and usually the quantity is much larger. So they're going to go much further for you. And in the case of canned items, it's best to avoid canned as much as possible, but sometimes, it's okay to buy it once in a while. But you do want to, in the case of fruit, choose fruit that's canned in 100% juice rather than syrup, because when it's packed with syrup, then that's a lot of added sugar that's not healthy for you. And in the case of canned vegetables, choose ones that say low sodium or no salt added. As I mentioned before, meal prepping is a really good idea. It saves you time and money. You can make some, not only can you prepare for the week, and so that saves you time each day and kind of saves you, or it lessens some of the stress, but it can also, you can free some of it for later, for the next week, for example, and certain types of meals are ideal for making extra of or for freezing, things like soups or stews, but other dishes as well. And you can also add leftover veggies to casseroles or soups. You can, when you have fruit that's become too ripe, like I was talking about the bananas earlier, a great thing to do so that you're not wasting them is add them to smoothies or baking. I like to bake cookies that are actually made with very ripe bananas, because then I don't even add any sugar to it. And so they're much healthier, and it's a great way to use up bananas that are starting to become overly ripe. Coupons are another great way to save money on your grocery budget, and you can find them in many different places. Very often, of course, we know in the newspaper, or we get many different mailers with food coupons. It's important to use coupons for items that you normally eat, for things that you regularly buy, because sometimes you might get coupons and say, oh, this looks like a great deal or something that I'll buy, but maybe it's something that you wouldn't normally eat, and sometimes you end up spending more because you're tempted by the marketing, since that's in a way another form of marketing. So try to look for coupons for things that you would normally buy, unless it is about experimenting and trying new things for you. As long as you are eating it, then it will help you save money if it becomes part of your diet. And look for coupons in unexpected places, like the back of your grocery store receipts, or very often there's a coupon on the package of an item that you already have purchased. And you can sometimes even find them on supermarket shelves. So as I already mentioned, the Sunday paper tends to have a lot of coupon inserts if you're somebody who receives the newspaper. And then there are great programs available that allow you to receive extra food. We all are probably familiar with WIC, the Women, Infant, and Children Supplemental Nutrition Program, that's designed for pregnant women, postpartum women, infants, and children up to age 5. And they offer specific food. They used to be called vouchers. I'm blanking on what the new term is. But anyway, it's kind of like food vouchers for specific food items that all are nutritious and designed to provide the nutrients that women and children need. And then, of course, there's CalFresh, that we often refer to as food stamps, but the new name, or not so new, is CalFresh. And then there are lots of food banks that are also available through churches and different community organizations, where you can go usually on a weekly basis and get food items that can help supplement your diet as well. Any questions before we move on to physical activity? I know that I've just shared a lot of information, and I just want to pause. I'm not sure if we've been taking questions through the chat or if we want to do that at the end. And I have not been monitoring the chat, so not sure if there have been any questions in there. Let me take a quick look. I just see some comments. Somebody says they love coupons. Okay, great. So let's move on to our next topic of physical activity, if there aren't any burning questions about nutrition, but we might have some time at the end. if there are questions. So of course, in addition to eating a healthy diet, being physically active is super important as well to help prevent and fight diseases like diabetes, heart disease, arthritis are some examples, but pretty much it's going to help us fight all types of diseases. And there's lots of other benefits for being physically active on a regular basis, like it improves your mood. And that's something that right now is more important than ever. I know I keep saying that these things are more important than ever, but they truly are, because a lot of people are feeling the stress and sadness and even a sense of grief right now because we've lost our sense of normalcy. Our lives are so much different and there's so much that we are missing right now. And so I think depression and sadness is on the rise. And so getting some physical activity helps us produce feel-good hormones like serotonin and other endorphins that can actually boost our mood. Getting lots of physical activity can help us sleep better. Right now, again, with what's going on, a lot of people are struggling with their sleep and maybe not sleeping as much due to the stress and the worry from everything going on. As I just talked about, it benefits our mind, it can lower stress, it can help us relax, and it could help us be more focused at work. We all know that it can help us stay in shape, so it benefits our, or it can help us maintain a healthy weight and to help keep our bones strong. Any form of weight-bearing exercise helps with our bone health. And what I mean by weight-bearing exercise, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to lift weights. It simply means it could be just from your own body weight. So any form of body weight exercise, whether that's walking, running, or any form of strength training, whether or not that's with using weights. But even you don't have to use weights. You could do things like squats and planks and push-ups, and all of that is weight-bearing. So it helps to maintain strong bones. Of course, it's also going to help maintain our muscle mass and give us more muscle definition, help us get more toned. And the thing that we often overlook is that it's super important for our joints. And these days, so many people are having hip replacements and knee replacements and things like that. So the more we move our body, the less likely we'll be to have those kinds of issues, not to mention arthritis and so many other things that can affect our mobility. And the problem with that is that once it affects our mobility, it becomes more difficult to be physically active. So literally, use it or lose it would apply when it comes to exercise. And there's definitely some recommendations in terms of the amount. The government recommends that we exercise for 30 minutes at least 5 days a week, which is a total of 150 minutes per week. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in full 30-minute increments. You can break it down if that makes it easier for you. So let's say you do 10 minutes in the morning before you jump in the shower. Maybe during lunch break or the middle of the day, after you've had lunch, you go for another 10-minute walk or go for a 10-minute walk, and maybe do another 10 minutes later on in the evening. So you can break it up, whatever works best for you. I really like to recommend that people try to do some exercise first thing in the morning or as early in the day as possible, because that really helps you get off to a good start. It helps your mood and it gives you more energy, and it can help you feel like you've already accomplished something that's really important, which helps you feel like you're more ready for the day, and it kind of can increase feeling your positive thoughts. So moderate exercise is considered things like walking, bicycling, and dancing. And earlier I was talking about weight-bearing exercise. I should mention that there's two forms of exercise that are not considered weight-bearing, and that would be bicycling and swimming, because when you're swimming, you're floating, and when you're bicycling, you don't have the weight of your body. And then vigorous exercises, running, doing things like heavy yard work, and swimming. So I'm not suggesting that bicycling or swimming aren't good forms of exercise. They really are, but you do want to also do some form of weight bearing. And lots of us have many different reasons why we're challenged by exercise, or meaning that we don't make the time, or it's difficult for us to make the time. And it could be anything from lack of resources, because sometimes we think we need to go to a gym. Gyms had been closed for a very long time. Now they've reopened with certain precautions, and so that's a bit more available. But the main point to make here is that you don't need a gym to get a good workout. There's lots of different ways that you can work out, and we'll talk a bit more about those. But as I was mentioning before, the machines that they have there, you can get a good workout similar to what you would get using exercise equipment by simply doing strength training exercises at home. Another reason is lack of time, especially if you have you're balancing family responsibilities and working a full-time job or what have you. And sometimes we simply aren't motivated. I know I used to have a really difficult time motivating myself to exercise because I didn't really like to exercise, but that really shifted for me. And so let's talk about what can help with that, with all of those barriers, actually. And so again, you don't need a gym to exercise. You can go to a local park, community center. Right now in this time, I'm not sure how much that is available or a good idea, but definitely I would say that the best thing right now is exercising at home. And if you do choose to go to a local park, or maybe go hiking or walking at the park or what have you, be sure to follow all of the precautions, meaning wear a mask, and stay socially distanced, which is at least 6 feet away from other people. And it's a good idea to try different activities and see what you like best. Working out at home saves time and money. So even before the pandemic and the risk of going to gyms, I've always advocated working out at home as much as possible because it saves money and time. You don't have to drive there, you don't have to drive back. And it's very easy to use simple things you have at home, or you don't even need anything, like I said, if you're just doing some basic strength training. But if you have stairs at home or at work or wherever you are frequently, taking the stairs instead of the elevator can really help. For example, I actually coach people for a worksite wellness company, and I was just coaching somebody yesterday who returned to work after working from home for weeks, and so it kind of disrupted the routine she had going at home. And so the way she replaced it is that she works on the 4th floor, so she told me she's taking the stairs up and down 3 to 4 times a day. So that's a great option. You can see that there's exercises that you can do by using a simple chair, doing those dips. If you have a jump rope at home, that's another great way to get some really good cardio in. And as a substitute for weights, if you don't have some free weights at home, you can use water bottles or food cans, things like that can also make a good substitute for weights to enhance your strength training routine. You can also get the whole family involved. That can help increase the motivation because you're having an exercise buddy or somebody to hold you accountable or to help motivate you if you're like kind of, I'm not feeling like going today. But if maybe you've committed to each other to push each other to do it, then it might work out better. And there's lots of things that you could do at home, like gardening, if you have that available to you. But even simply, I know it doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but even simply the housework that we do counts as exercise, because I really want to emphasize that the important thing is to be physically active. We don't necessarily have to think of it as getting a workout per se, but going out for walks and, again, doing your housework, all of that counts. And in fact, it's actually better to be active throughout the day than, let's say, do a 30-minute workout but sit the rest of the day. In fact, there's a lot of research coming out to show that sitting is the new smoking, and that even if we exercise for 30 minutes, but if we're sitting the rest of the day, it still can be harmful to health. So the important thing is to be as active as possible. You can walk to the grocery store or to nearby places if that's an option for you right now. Again, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. And what I was just emphasizing is that it all adds up. So tracking your steps is another good idea, so that you can kind of have a baseline and see how many steps on average you're taking each day, and then maybe set a goal for increasing them little by little over time. I also like to recommend baby steps and not necessarily trying to do too much too soon all at once, because then sometimes we end up sore and tired, and then we lose our motivation to keep it up the next day. And remember to have fun. And I was saying earlier that for me, I used to have a really hard time exercising consistently because I didn't really know what to do that was enjoyable for me. But I now love to do yoga. I love to do dance workouts, and I've even really started to enjoy doing strength training. So the point is to find an activity that you like, that's fun for you, or that fits your lifestyle, rather than feeling like, oh, I need to go to a gym to get a good workout. There's lots of ways to do it. And I believe that's my last slide. Yes. So any questions about anything that I've covered?
I believe there was some questions on the chat, Luz.
Okay, take a look.
Someone asked, any helpful tips on healthy sleeping aid?
Healthy sleeping aids. So I wouldn't recommend sleeping pills, because they can be addictive, and there's always side effects to any medication. Of course, you know, that would be something to consult with your doctor. In terms of something more natural, there's a few things that, you know, you can try. Chamomile tea can sometimes be relaxing, or different types of teas. And the other thing, again, in consultation with your doctor, would be to possibly discuss a melatonin supplement. The other thing that I really recommend to people that are having trouble sleeping is to get out in the sun for 15-20 minutes early in the day, get some early morning sunlight. We tend to be fearful of the sun these days because we fear skin cancer, and that's a very valid concern. But we do need vitamin D, and as much as we may eat a healthy diet, it's very difficult to get enough vitamin D from food. We really do need to be in the sun for some amount of time to metabolize it, and without sunblock. So you don't want to spend too much time in the sun, because then you can get sunburned and you are increasing your risk of skin cancer. So the recommendation is that you go out into the sun for, like I said, 15-20 minutes at least 3 times a week. And that can help with sleep also, because getting sunshine and the sunlight can help increase your melatonin production. Melatonin, I should say, is a hormone that helps you go to sleep. And it balances, there's a balance between melatonin and cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And so right now, a lot of people are having difficulty sleeping because they're stressed. And so it's important to do things to increase your melatonin production, and sunlight is what helps with that. If that still doesn't help, then again, talking to your doctor maybe about supplementing with melatonin would be a good idea.
Thank you so much, Luz. Yeah, I've been having trouble sleeping, and you are sure right. I have not been outside in the sunlight, so I will give that a try. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The other, and trust me, I've tried because I struggle with insomnia. It's gotten much, much better. But I've done and tried everything. And aside from what I just recommended, the other thing that really works for me is having a nighttime routine that's consistent, so that it signals to your body that it's time to relax and that bedtime is approaching. So doing something relaxing and staying off of devices for at least an hour before bed, because they produce blue light, and that tricks our brain into thinking it's still daytime. And so then that in and of itself can decrease your melatonin production.
That's a very good tip. I'm gonna try that out tonight. I have to get on a schedule for sure. Thank you so much. I always go on my phone, check my Instagram while I'm laying down. So I think that's not a good idea for me no more. I think I'm gonna put that down.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea. Yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, someone asked similar, same topic of sleep. What time is the best time to go to bed to be more healthier?
Well, I think the time to go to bed is going to really vary depending on the person's schedule and what time they have to get up in the morning. Ideally, we do want to get at least 7, if not 8 hours of sleep. So counting backwards from the time you have to get up, and allowing yourself some cushion there, because we don't necessarily fall asleep as soon as our head hits the pillow. At least most of us don't. I wish I were that lucky. And so figuring it out based on that.
So if you schedule the access for 7:30 to show up at your program on time, that I have to be maybe around 6 o'clock, so I can be ready for access, and I don't. Usually there's a ship ride. I know sometimes I take forever getting ready for access.
So you have to get up at 6 o'clock. Is that what you said?
And Kate, if I schedule my transportation for 7:30, for 7:30 to get to the program on time, because it's usually ship ride. And sometimes it takes me the 2 hours of getting ready.
So you would have to schedule your sleeping time 7 hours before the 6 a.m., right? So it would have to be, let's say, I don't know, I'm not really good at math, but I would try to go to bed like around.
I'd say by 10 or 10:30 at least.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I have trouble going to bed that reasonable time because of this pandemic.
Yes. Everybody's sleep schedule is kind of up like in the air because of the pandemic. But yeah, I think getting a good night's sleep so we can be up and energetic would help everybody.
Because the thing is if I oversleep, then I will miss my ride.
Yeah, that's true. We can't oversleep. That's why we have to be on a schedule. And thank you so much for sharing, Lisa.
That hasn't happened for a while.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Are there any others that I missed? I don't see any other. I think somebody asked about yoga. How about yoga?
Yeah.
Not sure what the exact question is, but yoga's great exercise. It kind of falls a little bit into the category of strength training, because some of the poses, well, it's definitely can be very weight bearing because you with your own body weight. The other benefits of yoga are that it really helps with stress management. So right now is a great time for people to have a yoga practice. And sticking to the subject of sleep, there's great sleep yoga routines that you can also do toward the evening that could be part of your bedtime ritual to help relax the body and get ready for bed. And of course, yoga also helps in lots of other ways with flexibility, with balance, and again, calming the body.
And Luz, do you want to just remind them about tomorrow that you're available?
Yes, so I'm available tomorrow according to the schedule that was given out, and I think that's
At 1.
1 o'clock.
No, I think it was at.
Sorry, no, today it
I
was
have
1
it on
o'clock.
my phone. Give me 1 second.
Tomorrow for money management is at 1 to 1:45, and then Luz 1 to 1:45 for health and wellness. For financial management from 1:45 to 2:30.
Okay, so it is at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in doing some individual coaching, I'll be available at that time from 1 to 1:45 using the link that was provided.
And I will also go ahead, once this is over, I'll go ahead and send like a reminder email with all the information provided today,
Oh, thank you so much, Amy.
including the survey.
Thank you very much.
Of course, Julie.
Yeah. Well, great to meet everybody.
No, great to meet you, Julie. Great to meet everybody. Thank you so much for offering this to us. It's been a pleasure, and just getting to, learn a lot of things, like even about like credit scores and credit reports. I have never ran my credit until I think 2 months ago. So it's been interesting getting to get my feet wet on that subject. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, did you want to take that group picture?
Yeah, so if everybody's okay, we want to just take a group picture. If anybody doesn't want to be on it, you can go off screen. Thank you for doing that, Zaira.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I will gladly do it.
Great.
Okay. All right. I'll just go ahead and take the group picture
Okay.
now.
Great.
Okay. 1, 2.
Oh, give Lisa
Oh,
one.
after Lisa.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
1, 2, and 3.
Great. Thanks, everybody.